Today's Daf Yomi. We're recording in advance. Daf Yomi for Shabbos Kodesh. Daf Yomi is Bava Basra Daf Yud Aleph and Bava Basra 11. And the Daf is dedicated for Shmira for the Chayolim. It's all for the Shuyim and Yeshua for Am Yisrael in this difficult time. Apologize for the audio. I'm in the passenger seat as Max is driving me up to New Jersey for Shabbos. Daf Yomi tells us we're going to start at 11a on the second line or in the first line. Tanya Amru Lava Binyamin Atzadik, they used to say about Binyamin, the righteous one, Shayamamuna Kupa Shaltstaka, he was in charge of the communal charity fund. Hamachas, one time, Bata Yisha Alfana Vishani Bitsoros. One time a woman came before him during a famine. Amru, she said to him, Rabbi Parnas Amru Avodah. He said to her, I swear, She'im Bekupa Shaltstaka, I've got nothing to give you. Amru, she responded, Rabbi, if you're not going to support me, then there's a woman and her 7 children who are going to die. Meaning, say, I have no food for my 7 children. He went up and he supported her out of his own money. A few days later, or sometime later, he got sick, and he was about to die. Amru Malach the angel said before him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amru Malach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the angel said before God, Ribbono Shalom, Master of the universe, Ata Marta, you said, Kol Mekayim Nefesh Achas MiYisrael, Kilo Kayim Olam Malach. You said, whoever upholds one soul from Israel, it's like they uphold the whole world. Binyamin HaTzadik, Shehechya Isha V'Shiva B'Anei Yamus. You're going to run this Binyamin, the righteous one, who supported a woman and her 7 children. You're going to allow him to die? You're going to allow him to die prematurely? Miyad Karulo Zardino, they tore up the decree that they had given to him. Tano Sifulo Esher Mishtayim Shana. They added 22 years onto his life. Some say this corresponds to the letters of the alphabet. So they added 22 years onto his lifetime. There was an incident with Munbas. He was from the son of Queen Alina from the Chashmonaim. They took his money and the money of his forefathers during the time of a famine, and he spent it on the people. And so his father's home and his father's household, his brothers, they all raised a voice against him, and they said to him, "Avosecha gamzu vosifu shel avosam." Your forefathers, they raised all this money and they saved all this money. And you're wasting the money. He responded, he says, my forefathers, they collected for their portfolio below, but I'm collecting for it above. As it says, MS me eretz titzmach, the truth will blossom from the earth. It's tzedek mishamayim mishkaf, and the righteousness from the heavens will gaze down. Avosai ganzu b'makom shayat sholetes. My forefathers collected the money in the place where they can use it. But I collect in the place where the hand cannot use it. As it states, it says righteousness and judgment are on your throne, meaning say nobody can reach the throne, and that's where I put the money. My forefathers collected something that doesn't produce dividends. I collected something which produces dividends, as it says, Imrut Sadik Kitov, Ki Prima Aleim Yopelu. The righteous people will speak because it's good, because the fruits of their labors they will eat. Avosai Ganzu Otros Mamon, my forefathers collected a storage place of money. Vani Ganazti Otros Nefashos, I collected souls. As it says, Pri Tzadik, the fruit of the tzaddik is Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. Lokech Nefashos Chacham, Lokech Nefashos Chacham, and the one who takes souls is wise. Avosai Ganzua Acherem Vani Ganazti Atzmi. My forefathers, they collected the money for others, but I collected for myself, as it says, for you will be charity. Avosai Ganzu, Abosai ganzu l'olam hazeh, v'ani ganati l'olam haba. My forefathers collected for this world, and I collected for the world to come. As it says, as it says in the pasuk in Isaiah, v'alach lefanecha tzikecha kavod Hashem yasfecha. So now we are up to the last piece before the Mishnah here. It says, Imkana based tira, if a person acquired something, a house in a place, then he's like the Anshe Ayir, and he has to contribute to the security right away. Masnisin the local Rashbag, our Mishnah is not like Rashbag, the Tanya Rashbag, Omer, Imkana Bakarka Kolshu Areo Anshe Ayir. He says, not if you buy a house, but you can just buy a little bit of land, you're like the people of the city. Gemara says, if you acquire real estate from which you could put a house up, then you're like the people of the city. So the Gemara says, straight tonight, I'll leave it to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. It's two Tanaim arguing about what Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says. Mishnah says, one person can't force the other one to divide up a courtyard unless each one has 4 cubits, a minimum of 4 cubits for each other. Was a sada and not a field that till there's enough to produce 9 kabin of food for each. Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda says no, until there is enough to produce 9 half kabs for this one and 9 half kabs for that one. Below us Gina, and we don't divide the vegetable garden. Below us Gina. Until there's enough to make a half a cup for this one, a half a cup for that one. Rabbi Akiva says a different amount. Rabbi Akiva says base rova, a quarter cup for each one. V'los a traklin, v'los a moron. We don't divide a palace or a hall, basically different types of chambers in the palace. V'los a shobach, v'los a palace, nor a dovecote or a garment for a space of bad, not a bathhouse or an olive press, or a space of shachan, not an irrigation place, until there will be enough for both of them, meaning less will be enough for be a proper share. Anything that you could divide and it will still have that name attached to it, then we could force each party to divide. Otherwise, we don't divide. When do we say you don't divide it where they both don't want to? But where they both want to divide it, then of course we allow it. Even less than that we allow it. The Kisvei HaKodesh, but if it's a holy scripture writing, even though both of them don't want to divide the scripture, even though both of them want to divide the holy writings like the Torah scroll, we don't allow them to divide it. Amar Rabbi Yasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Arba Amos Sha'amru, these 4 amos that they said that they are required to have to force somebody to divide it, that's to the exclusion of the entranceway. Basically, each one has to have 4 amos, plus an additional 4 amos in the front to serve as a loading dock, basically. So basically, each one really needs 8 amos. You don't divide unless each one gets 8 amos. That doesn't our Mishnah say 4 amos for each one. That you need the 4 amos to live in, and then another 4 amos is a loading dock. Some taught this as a question or as a contradiction. Tanan, our Mishnah says that you don't divide until each one has 4 cubits. But another bright says 8 amos. We need the 4 amos, then the loading dock of 4 amos. When we divide up the courtyard, it's divided according to the entrances in the courtyard. Meaning to say, if a man owned a courtyard that has 2 houses, one house has 2 entrances, and the other house only has 1. If he gives one house to one of his sons and the second house to the other, but he doesn't divide the courtyard, and then they come along and they want to divide the courtyard, Rafun is telling us that the brother who got the house with 2 entrances, he's entitled to 2/3 of the courtyard, while the one who got the 1 entrance is worth to 1/3. That's how he says, Whereas Rav Chisda Amar knows in Arba Amos will call Pesach Pesach. Rav Chisda says you only give one, you give 4 cubits. That's it for each courtyard, so you can do an unloading dock. And the rest you divide equally. Tanya Kavasi to Rav Chisda, we have a price like Rav Chisda. Sachem Shabbat Yeshan Arba Amos. You have the entrances in the courtyard. Each one gets 4 amos. Was that Pesach Echad? Was that Shna Pesachim? If one has one entrance and the other has 2 entrances, then Zesh Yeshlo Pesach Echad Noto Arba Amos. Zesh Yeshlo Shnei Pesachim Noto Shmon Amos. The one which has one entrance takes 4 cubits, and the one which has 2 entrances takes equally. If this one has that is 8 amos wide, Shmona amos can get a Pesach, Arba amos, 8 amos opposite the entrance and 4 amos in the courtyard. Meaning to say, in addition to the 8 amos for the entrance, he gets 4 amos in the courtyard. Amos b'chanzer mayav. What's he doing it? What's he going to do with that? So Abai explains, Shmona amos b'orach hachanzer. You take 8 amos in the length, Arba amos b'rocham, and 4 amos in the width. Meaning to say that's what you're going to get as like a loading dock. Let's say you have a pit of date stones. You get 4 amos in every direction from it for unloading. That's where there's no specific entrance. He has a specific entrance, and you only have 4 amos opposite the entrance. Since Amar Apuda says Sadra, this is like a pavilion, which is like a carport. Ein la arba amos, it only has 4 cubits. Time of my why? Because it's the 4 amos are for loading and unloading. After the aisle farik. But here in the case of the pavilion, you can go inside with the animal and unload it there. And so therefore you don't get the 4 amos. Master of Sheshes, Echad Shari Batim, Echad Shari Achsadrus, Yechlein Arba Amos. The contradiction says here that the gates of the Achsadrus, you do get 4 amos. Where explains Kitanyahu, that was taught by Achsadrus de Rav in the Academy of Rav. Where it says Achsadrus de Rav Shita. Well, it's obvious in that academy, that was pavilion of the academy, since that was totally enclosed, and so therefore you're not going to bring the animals in. So the Gemara says, obviously not bringing an animal in there. The Gemara explains, no, a Roman pavilion. This type of Roman pavilion had low walls, and so therefore it's not obvious. You might think you could bring your animal in there. The gatehouse and Nadra and the Merpathis have 4 amos. The Merpathis here is like basically like hanging at the end of Chamisha. If you have 5 houses that open onto this Merpathis, they only get 1 place of 4. She'll turn to go and Yeshua Arba Amos and Armos. A chicken coop, does it have the 4 cubits? I'm like, he's in the Rabbi Amos to a courtyard. You want to unload. But this is jumping up and down. Bias. Let's say you have a house which is partially covered and partially not covered. Yeshlo Arba Amos or Engo Arba Amos? Does it get the 4 amos or not? Amar Lai Engo Arba Amos. It doesn't get it because they even bring the animal in. Not only if it's covered within the Avshadal Gavam, the fact they can bring it to the outer part and unload. Even if its covering was on the outside, Avshar. The aisle of Gavim Farach. It doesn't get 4 amos because you can bring it in and cover it up. So somebody wants to make the brass house. Are they they could stop him. This is where they used to quarter the soldiers. How did they calculate it? building or this? I'm really the fundamental of this. According to the number of people who live in the building. Also, the manure they divide up according to the number of people, meaning to say the fertilizer that's there, how do they divide it up according to the number of people who live there? And the quartering goes according to the number of people. So let's say the people from the alleyway that wanted to open up into another, he wants to close it up and put up basically a wall to stop one of the entrance. They could stop him because he makes their road longer. So the more challenges this. Let's say 5 corridors that open up into one alleyway. Everyone can use the outer one, and the one on the outside can use the part opposite their own courtyard. Everybody can use the second one, meaning to say, he can use the outer one. So what's the case here? We're talking about basically the 5 courtyards. And so the person at the end can use all the ones before him. The one all the way on the inside, he gets to use that one by himself. And he can use all the ones outer from him. So we see from here that this contradicts what Rav Huna said, who said that people in the Mavoi who says that the people of the Mavoi have the right to stop the building of an enclosure. It's more since Tanai, the Tanya. That's a price. It says they could stop him. Says they can all use it. So who mentions courts here? Or explains this is what it means. They all can use the outer one. Everyone can use the outer one under those circumstances. So the nurse that's for that position of Rabbi Shimon Leather says they can all use the alleyway. Okay, we'll stop here. Stop this recording here. I'll pick it up, God willing. I'll do it on Sunday with everybody together. Everybody should have an amazing Shabbos.